Good morning. Today's reminder, it's sort of a long one, so I'm not going to recite it exactly as it is. I'll put the whole thing in the description. But the main idea of it is to make the house or the world into your ashram. And you don't need to use the word ashram. It could be into your church, your nunnery, as you will. I, for one, don't have a specific religion that I follow. So any word will work for me. To walk through life as if all things should be interacted with as holy things and holy spaces. And there's two different approaches to this. Either the non-dual or the dual way of seeing it, depending on your own view of reality. If you see it in a non-dual way, then that's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. If you really believe what you say you believe, then everything is the same thing. Everything is one. Everything is God. So you don't need to be in a specific place to live that way. Every place would be the same place, which is the dwelling of the one. If you follow a dual way of seeing life, then you should see things, all things, as equal in God's eyes, in God's creation. All things manifest through God's will. And so how can you treat one thing as better than another, or more righteous than another, when God made it all in His own image as equal? It is only meeting you in that moment because God willed it to be so. And I'll even give you an atheist point of view, like a truly, totally secular point of view. Secular is the one that is no God, right? Or is it non-secular? Anyways, you get what I'm saying. I haven't thought of this previously, so I'm just going to sort of come up with it on the spot. Because I can vibe with that too. Like, I can vibe with the total, truly atheist point of view as well. I don't see any difference, personally. If all things are made of atoms, all things, and all atoms are made only of elementary particles, and there's nothing smaller than that, what are elementary particles made from? They are made only of patterns of energy, so the potential for something to be. They're simply patterns. That's what they are. Vibrating patterns. I don't really love to use that language because I know it's been like snatched up by New Age. Vibrations, patterns, energy. But they did snatch it up because those are the actual words for those things. But anyways, that's actually what elementary particles are made from, is just patterns of vibrating energy. And what's energy made of? Nothing at all. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Only the pure potential for something. So if all things are made from nothing but potential, which is also nothing in and of itself, then all things are made equal, even in just the eyes of absolutely neutral potential, unfeeling, uncaring potential. That's all anything is. The dance of energy patterns vibrating and bouncing off of one another upon themselves, somehow creating awareness, which we don't yet understand how. Either there's a blanket of awareness that encompasses all things or underlies underneath all things, or certain patterns that energy creates happen to be the pattern of awareness. So that pattern could be the pattern of a human brain, for example. And if it moves in this certain way to create a brain, then that is the pattern of awareness. And so once that pattern changes, the awareness goes away. But if energy inherently has within it the ability to become aware, intuitively it feels as though there would be a type of subtle awareness throughout all things which energy are present in, which would be all things that exist, including the air itself or a rock. So in that viewpoint, all things are equal as all things. And so if you treat one thing with love and kindness, which is just you're treating this one thing, let's say your wife, with love and kindness, she is a certain pattern of energy bouncing upon itself in a certain way that you enjoy. And then who are you? Also just energy patterns dancing with themselves, telling themselves what to think. And what are thoughts at all? Also just a dance of patterns that other energy patterns give meaning to. And then what is meaning? Anyways, we could keep going layer by layer. But you love this one pattern of energy. And who is it that is doing the loving? It's a pattern of energy that's arising that is labeled as love. Love looks like this pattern, this waveform. You look at something else, the waveform goes like this instead, which other energy patterns has now labeled as dislike. But in reality, it's all just empty potential that other random energy patterns have been habituated to give a label to. But labels are nothing but patterns in and of themselves. So if that's what it's all made of, is just patterns habituated into certain stances to say that this is what that means, and habituated to tell you that awareness exists at all, then the more times that you habituate yourself to create those patterns of enjoyment, love, joy, the more often that the energy patterns in general in and of themselves will be habituated to be that way. And the more often that you habituate them to aversion, dislike, suffering, pain, the more often they will habituate themselves to be that way. But in reality, they're all just patterns of empty potential. So if the suffering comes about as well, that's okay too. And you can be okay in that, knowing that it's just another pattern. And who even is the one experiencing that pattern? Other patterns? But the point is, on the level of reality where you want happiness to arise and you want suffering to go away, you should probably stop habituating yourself into the patterns of suffering, or stop giving them more energy, if that's all anything is at the end of the day, is just energy bouncing off itself and creating more of itself. Not creating more energy, but creating more of the same patterns. But eventually you can give up the wanting altogether, but that's another video. Another story. Anyways, make every place your ashram. You don't need to become a monk and live inside of an ashram to interact with all things in that way. Because whether you believe it's all God, which means it's all God, then why are you reacting differently to God's form in this form than God's form in that form? It's all God. Or it's not all God, but it's all God's creation, which he has willed to come into your life at that exact moment for whatever reason he has willed it to be so. And so therefore accept it as you would inside of a church. And I mean, accept it is I'm not saying lay down and die. This is like my last video or something about surrender. The difference between surrender and just like, you can move with it as if you would in a church, as if you were being read to about revelations. Here it is, because this is what God has put into your life at that moment. Here it is. Work with it and don't deny its truth. Don't deny its relevance in your life, even if it hurts. And remove yourself from dangerous things, but don't act as if you would know better than God what was meant to be in your life at whatever moment. Accept. First step is accept it. Second step is use your also God-given abilities and gifts to move yourself through it in the way that seems the most necessary, without thinking, God, why did you do this? This shouldn't be in my life. You're wrong. I'm right. I know what my life should be like. There's two different ways to look at it, right? It's like the first way is like acceptance, surrender, flow. The second way is you're stopping yourself in your tracks. You're closing yourself off to any possible good that could come from something that you just happen to not like at the moment. And it makes it harder to get out of a dangerous situation because you're just like angry the whole time instead of instead of flowing with the path of least resistance, of like moving yourself through it more easily. Okay, and then the last viewpoint of everything being an ashram is the atheistic viewpoint of everything is also just like the same at the end of the day, biologically or scientifically. What word would I use there? It's all made of the same stuff, and it's all really nothingness at all at the end of the end. The bottom, the lowest layer of everything, the building blocks of all things, your body, everything around you, the entire world, the air itself, the thoughts you think. It's all the same exact thing, which is just empty potential. And you can choose what that potential, what pattern it arises into. Okay. See you later.